And Moana 2 right now is feasting at the Thanksgiving Day
Crushing
box office. Box office, Moana 2 serves up record 28 million Thanksgiving feast. Heads for 175 million plus launch. Now, I think it's probably going to be way closer. Like the whole 5-day week is probably going to be way closer to like over 200 million based on some of these numbers that we've seen. Moana Apocalypse has begun at the box office. The animated sequel's headed for the top grossing holiday dish of all time. Wicked heads for a massive $105.6 million 5-day haul as well. Wicked probably looking at somewhere like a high 30s, low 40% drop off from last weekend.
Which is an insane hold.
Which is a pretty damn good hold for something that opened that way. Disney's fantasy musical Moana 2 opened to a record-shattering $57.5 million on Wednesday, including the Tuesday previews, obviously, followed by $28 million on Thursday. The biggest Thanksgiving of all time and the fourth biggest Thursday for a non-opening day. Rival studios show the animated sequel opening north of $200 million, but Disney won't comment on that yet. Thanks to the potent combination of Disney's Moana sequel, Universal's Wicked, and Paramount's Gladiator 2, overall 5-day revenue will hit a high for the long Turkey Day holiday, well north of $400 million. The previous best was $316 million. So this is going to be the biggest Thanksgiving we've seen at the box office ever. Now, money-wise, now in terms of how many tickets are actually sold, that's a completely different story. We know that based on inflation and the other inflation of just ticket prices in general, it's a very different theatrical experience now than it was, say, 10 or 15 years ago. But with all that being said, the number is still fucking insane. And you've got all your bases covered for anybody that wants to go see a movie effectively for all the demographics.
Yeah, this is a huge one, and it's kind of shocking to me to some extent, just because Moana 2, not that like the first Moana movie was a huge success, everybody loved it, but this just didn't seem to have a lot of traction. There wasn't a lot of marketing. It didn't seem like people were talking about this movie that much, but you know, I have heard nothing like overly negative about it in terms of wokeness or any bullshit like that. There are a few reviews over on critic lists, so we don't have a cumulative score right now. There's 4 reviews in, and we've got a 74%, a 79%, a 32%, and a 65%. So those are the 4 reviews that are in right now over there. So once it gets to 10, we'll have a cumulative score over there. So I'm not hearing terrible things about it at this point, but what are you hearing?
Mostly what I've heard is it's not as good as the first one. And that does it kind of makes sense. We talked about the way this was made. This was supposed to be a TV series on Disney Plus. And Disney's like, hey, you know, we've had kind of a lot of misses at the box office. What do we just fucking make this a movie and put it out? Just the name alone is probably going to sell big, and that's what's happening. So it's almost like sad in a way that this might be all Disney has to do for the rest of its life. We're not actually creating anything new. Toy Story 5, Toy Story 6, Moana 3, Moana 4, Frozen 4, Frozen 5. Like that's the way they want to go now. And when you get returns like this, it's hard to argue against it, even though creatively that might not be what necessarily everyone wants to see. But Moana 2, although it didn't put up like Frozen numbers at the box office when it came out, after release, it has a massive following. Moana is consistently the most watched movie on Disney Plus. When you're talking about VOD stuff, when you're talking about merchandise, things like that, Moana is huge. It got bigger after its release than it was while it was in theaters. And I think you're seeing that pay off in a big way for them, obviously.
And they're working on a live action version, right? Aren't they?
Yeah, I think it's supposed to release next year, but yeah, they're filming it right now.
That's going to be interesting to see how that performs with all the momentum from this, because I do think this is one of these movies that is going to transcend like any type of like Rotten Tomatoes scores and shit like that. Like, it just doesn't seem like people are invested in this story and these characters for sure. I was not expecting this big of a weekend, especially with something like Wicked out there that's kind of already got that audience, you know, that you would think would be going to something like this. These are huge numbers.
It's huge, and internationally is going to be like the big kicker, I think, for Moana. I think it's going to do huge numbers internationally. Now, overseas, we have to remember, as Americans, it's obviously a massive holiday weekend for us. For everyone else in the world, it's just another fucking weekend, right? So you can't expect maybe to see the numbers popping the same way they are here in America. But I think internationally and overseas, it's going to be huge. I think Moana 2 is going to be massive. We'll see how it all ends up. But I mean, this thing, in theory, could end up having $350-400 million worldwide haul just in one weekend, if not more.
I'm interested to see what people are saying about it, much like Inside Out 2 and how that was a return to form for Disney in a lot of people's eyes. Mainly, and I don't think Inside Out 2 was like one of the greatest Pixar movies ever, but I did enjoy it. It was fine for what it was. The trailers for Moana 2 just didn't look good. It wasn't that they looked bad. It just looked like this was something that they said, hey, we need to make a sequel to this highly successful first film. We need to get this out. We need to make some money off of it. It didn't seem like it was something that was necessary outside from a story standpoint, but doesn't really matter. People are showing up big time. So between this and Wicked and Gladiator 2, this is going to be a massive weekend at the box office. Huge.
Yeah. I mean, you can see right here, it's already served up the top opening day ever for a Walt Disney Animation title, and the third biggest opening day for any animation title behind Incredibles 2 and Inside Out 2. So tracking kind of just behind in terms of that opening day. And it's obviously a weird opening day. We don't normally see them open on a Tuesday previews into Wednesday type of thing. But it's doing big numbers. Yeah, it's doing big numbers. It'll pass up Frozen 2 at 125 million to become the top earner for the 5 days. It won't even come close. But
now
see what happens.
And I'd mentioned Critic List, but if you guys want to go over there, it's free. Sign up. You can go over there, review movies, review TV shows. And it's essentially a Rotten Tomatoes alternative. And I love seeing the Geeks and Gamers peeps over there. So, and they have an app on Android and Apple. So feel free to go over there and check that out if you're interested. And look forward to seeing you guys over there.
Yeah, and you see the international numbers for Gladiator 2 are also really solid. Like they're estimating it'll be close to $400 million globally by the time Sunday comes. I'm interested to see how Wicked does internationally because it's big domestically. It's going to continue to be big domestically. How does it do internationally, especially with all this competition? We'll have to see.
I'm glad to see that there's a lot of successful movies out there that aren't really bogged down in bullshit. I mean, even with all the Wicked stuff with like all the fucking cringeworthy marketing and all of that, like it's not really from what
the press tour is like ungodly cringe.
It's unbelievable, dude.
From everyone I've talked to that's seen the movie itself, says it's not like that, I guess.